let's talk about a crucial part of what makes a hotel truly great, the front office audit. Now, I know the word audit can sound a little intimidating, right? Kind of like a pop quiz you didn't study for. But I want you to think about it in a totally different way. See it as a health checkup for your hotel, a really powerful tool to fine-tune your operations and deliver real excellence. So let me ask you a question, a real puzzle. How is it possible that one guest can have a perfect, amazing five-star stay while another guest, on the very same day, leaves feeling totally frustrated? It's not about luck, it's all about consistency. And that, right there, is exactly where a solid front office audit comes into play. So here's our game plan. We're going to start with a quick Tale of Tuesdays to really see what's at stake. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of why audits are so crucial. After that, we'll walk through a general checklist and take a deep dive into communications. And finally, we'll see how an audit can actually be a pretty powerful team-building tool. You know, every hotel runs on its standard operating procedures, its SOPs. When those are followed, everything just flows. It's almost like magic. But when they're not, that's when the entire guest experience can completely unravel. And honestly, the difference between a glowing review and a terrible one often comes down to just a single missed step. Just look at this. It's night and day, and it's happening in the same hotel. On one hand, you've got a guest with a smooth check-in because the room readiness procedure was followed perfectly. On the other, a guest is stuck waiting in the lobby, feeling ignored, all because a step was missed. One person gets that critical wake-up call, the other misses a flight. This huge gap between the ideal stay and the problematic one, well, that shows you the true cost of inconsistency. So, how do we close that gap? This really brings us to the heart of the whole thing. The front office audit is the tool that ensures your team consistently delivers on your hotel's promise. You can almost think of it as preventative care for your service quality. Okay, so let's get crystal clear on what a front office audit actually is. It is a systematic review. It's not random, and it's definitely not based on feelings. It's a structured, organized look at your procedures and your team's performance to make absolutely sure your standards are being met every single time. And this isn't just about tidying things up. A good audit really supports 4 essential pillars. It ensures service consistency, which in turn protects guest satisfaction. It maintains compliance and security, and that means everything from key cards to guest data. And by preventing mistakes and keeping customers from walking away, it directly safeguards your hotel's revenue. All 4 of these are totally connected. All right, so we've covered the why. Now it's time to get into the how. Let's start with a general audit checklist, and we'll focus on those absolutely crucial first impressions and interactions that your team has with a guest. Just imagine a guest walking in for a second. The audit checks the basics right away. Is the signage clear so they don't end up waiting in the wrong place? How's the line being managed? These little things really set the tone. But even more important is the human element. What's the staff's attitude like? Are they friendly, positive, and on time for their shifts? The audit systematically checks these absolute fundamentals of hospitality. Now, here's a question from the checklist that carries a lot of weight. On the surface, it's a simple yes or no, but the implications are just huge. This is about so much more than just a process. This is about trust. And this is exactly why that question is so important. A guest is trusting you with their most valuable belongings. A solid audited procedure for safety deposit boxes protects those items, for sure. But in doing that, it also protects your hotel's most valuable asset of all, its priceless reputation. The audit also digs into things like special programs and general knowledge. Are your VIPs actually getting the experience they were promised? You know, if a guest's profile says they prefer sparkling water, is it waiting in their room? Does every single person on the team know the pool hours right off the top of their head? An audit confirms all these details are in place, so the guest experience is truly seamless. Okay, let's switch gears and talk about communications. Because beyond those face-to-face interactions, a hotel's communication network is like its nervous system. Auditing these channels is absolutely critical for the health of the entire operation. You know, for a lot of guests, their very first point of contact is the phone. So the audit asks, are calls being answered quickly and politely? But it goes deeper. Does the operator actually know the answer, or are they just passing the guest around? Is their information directory up to date and easy to use? Seriously, one simple phone call can make or break a guest's entire impression of your hotel. This is a really great example of how the core principle, just being diligent, applies no matter what technology you're using. In a manual system, the audit checks for timestamps on all the messages. In a fancy automated one, it's checking to see if someone is following up on messages that haven't been retrieved. The tools change, but the standard of care, making sure the guest gets the message, that stays exactly the same. And here we go, another one of those seemingly simple questions from the checklist. But I think anyone who has ever relied on a hotel wake-up call knows just how incredibly important this is. And that is the bottom line. This isn't just some minor inconvenience. A failure right here can have huge, huge consequences for a guest's travel plans. A missed flight could mean a lost business deal, a ruined vacation, and a guest who will never, ever trust your hotel again. Auditing this procedure is completely non-negotiable. Okay, we've covered the what and the how. Now let's get to the final and maybe the most important piece of the puzzle, the who. Because a successful audit isn't just a manager walking around with a clipboard. It's got to be about the entire team. This right here is the key mindset shift. The goal of an audit is not to find fault. It's not about pointing fingers. It's about the whole team coming together to identify weaknesses in the system and then strengthening them as a group. It's a tool for improvement, not for punishment. A smooth shift handover is just a perfect example of this teamwork in action. The audit checks this process to make sure that absolutely nothing falls through the cracks. Does the incoming team know about a guest's late-night request? Is a billing issue properly noted down? When you do this right, you transform a boring checklist into a shared commitment to providing seamless service 24/7. So let's end with this. You've set the standards for excellence. The audit is the tool that empowers your team to consistently meet them. It's that health checkup that ensures your hotel isn't just surviving, but actually thriving. So the real question is, how are you going to use it to make your standards a daily reality?